Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with works you can't stop collecting, my compulsions. And, these are often not the most famous or popular pieces. Sometimes they're just incredible discoveries by major composers, sometimes not. In this case, it is a major discovery by a major composer. The composer is Saint-Saëns. Now, as you may know, Saint-Saëns wrote 5 piano concertos. And for the longest time, the only one we ever heard was number 2. Very rarely number 4, which is a very odd piece, a very special piece, actually. A combination of Germanic Bachian counterpoint and chorale and French insouciance. It's really quite special and interesting. But number 2 is the one we always got. And I heard it a million times, and I got a zillion recordings of it. And when the great pianists wanted to do a Saint-Saëns piano concerto, they always hauled out number 2. And it's really easy to hear why. It's just a wonderful piece with that amazing scherzo central movement, with that fabulous tune, da-da, 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 yeah, da-da, da-da, da-da. God, it's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. But when I was in college, I went to see the Baltimore Symphony with Lauren Hollander, I think, was playing. And one of his specialty pieces was the Saint-Saëns Piano Concerto number 5, subtitled The Egyptian. Today it would be subtitled The Cultural Appropriation Concerto, I'm sure. But in those days, we called it The Egyptian. And oh my God, it blew me away. Holy Moses, what a fabulous piece of music that no one was ever playing. So we actually found somebody when I got to college and all that and got out and was in New York and in my community orchestra. We did it. We found someone who was willing to learn it and perform it. It's very difficult, actually. It's very virtuosic, particularly in the finale. And it's just, like all of Saint-Saëns' concertos, it just has this original form. The first movement is technically an allegro, but it's kind of relaxed and sunny. And it's just, you're sitting by the palm trees, having a cocktail, sucking on a coconut, whatever you're doing. And then there's this very orientalist central movement, which has 3 taps on a tam-tam, which I got to play. Yay! And then a totally whiz-bang finale, full of really good tunes. I mean, it brings the house down in performance because it's so bloody exciting when you get to the end of it. Really just delicious. So after that, I got hooked and I wanted to hear as many performances of it as I could. But, most versions of it were only available in complete sets because it just had no independent existence outside of recordings or Lauren Hollander, some people who did it, but very, very rarely. There were very few individual recordings of it. You wound up buying complete Saint-Saëns piano concerto sets. And you got performances of it that, some were better than others. I mean, usually they were okay. There was Pascal Roger, and there was Jean-Philippe Collard, and there was Aldo Ciccolini, and, all those people. And they were good. I mean, they were good. They really were. But a lot of them just didn't have that special quality I wanted because I really think it's a masterpiece. It's a late masterpiece. It's in a somewhat retro style because it was composed when was it, like 1920s or something? I don't know, toward the end of Saint-Saëns' life. It's like Opus 3075. Yeah, Opus 103. Actually, it was written in 1896. So, okay. He had a lot more opera to come, but I mean, it was late Saint-Saëns. And by 1896, these sort of, exotic excursion pieces were losing some of their luster. But I just think it's amazing. It's delicious. And so I collected compulsively. And there are 4 versions. Remember, this series is not like the best. Well, some of them will be the best. I think, of course, some of them are the best. But it's the ones I choose to listen to for my own pleasure. This is the pleasure series, and my pleasure may not be your pleasure. It should be, because my pleasure is really damn good, I have to tell you. But that's okay. You can still have your own pleasure, and that's fine too. It really is. So I have 4 here that I listen to regularly. 2 very new ones, or recent ones, and 2 very old ones. And that's another thing that makes it so interesting, because the performance history of the work is such that you get to make the acquaintance of some wonderful historical pianists, particularly lady pianists in the French tradition, the great French tradition. And so, to begin with, the one I'm listening to all the time now, Louis Lortie on Chandos with the BBC Philharmonic and Edward Gardner. This is just a blazing performance. I mean, it's a take no prisoners, exciting. The second movement begins with such slashing accents and tight rhythm. It's tremendous. It's absolutely brilliant, and I recommended this series very highly already in a video, and it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. And so, chances are when I want to go hear it, this is the one I'm going to listen to. But not always, because I also have a great, abiding love for a recording that you'll never see this one. It's in mono, very good mono, with the Lamoureux Orchestra, which is, of course, fabulous in French music. It was recorded in, I think, 1953, it looks like, yes, with Jean Fournet conducting and Magda Tagliaffero piano. Magda Tagliaffero was a wonderful pianist, Brazilian pianist who studied in France. And, she was active until she was like 100. She made digital recordings for Sony with, who was her pupil? Danielle Varsi, I think it was. She was a well-known piano pedagogue. And also, she made very few recordings. This one has the Egyptian Concerto and Schumann's Carnival, which I also love, by the way, in this performance, even though I'm not a Carnival fan usually. It's pretty terrific here, but wow, is this great. This is so effortless and smart and characterful. Her rubato is a lesson. I mean, it really, really is a lesson. One of the moments that you can always sort of tell whether the people know what they're doing is in the finale, before the main theme comes in. There's this introduction where it's almost jazzy. The piano is sort of doing this sort of, then the piano goes, then it takes off, and you could really see if the pianist gets it, if they know how to time that run so that when the allegro really erupts, it's just amazing here. I can't even describe it. She's so good. It's just an incredible performance, and beautifully recorded in 1953, and I adore it. It would be nice to see a little Magda Tagliaffero edition. There have been some, actually, by the way, but 78s and things like that. I don't know how many recordings she made for Philips. Now it's Decca. Now you'll never find this probably anywhere, but she's amazing. Absolutely amazing. The next one is another historical recording. It's in the big Saint-Saëns box, I believe. I'm pretty sure. With Jeanne-Marie Darré, another wonderful French pianist, female pianist, with the French Radio Orchestra under Louis Fourestier on EMI Warner, another mono recording, but in very perfectly decent sound. It's really, really good. That cycle was sort of displaced when I think it was Ciccolini did his stereo cycle, and then Collard did it for EMI. I mean, they were all on EMI because EMI had all the French stuff back then. But it's very good. Similar to Tagliaffero in the sense that she's a stylist with plenty of technique, but you're always conscious of her shapeliness of phrasing and beautiful balance between the hands. She just gets it. And it's a joy, absolutely a joy to hear these performances. The cool thing about Tagliaffero is that she only recorded the fifth. I mean, that's a real rarity, a singleton recording. Darré did them all, but it's a very, very fine cycle. And I remember the first time I heard it, and I thought, here's another thing that never should have gone out of print. It really was ridiculous that they would do that. And then we have another recent comer in very different style. This one on Audite with Anna Malikova, a fine, fine pianist, with Thomas Sanderling conducting the WDR Symphony Orchestra of Cologne. And I mean, the Sonics, it's an SACD, multi-channel. I only listen to regular CDs, but it sounds fantastic. The performances are just the opposite of the French style, but it just goes to show you how valid Saint-Saëns was as a composer, because this is slower. It's not heavy, but it's slower, more considered. It doesn't have, the sizzle that these really fast, virtuosic ones do, but it's very virtuosic. I mean, Malikova is a very fine piano technician. It's a stroll rather than a jog, but the music is so beautiful. It's lovely to hear all the inner detail that comes out, and all the sort of, the way that they can relax a little bit and enjoy the view, because it's such scenic music. It really is. And with the Sonics this good, I mean, a beautiful sounding piano. It's just a lovely, lovely performance. And it's coupled with an extraordinarily gorgeous performance of the third concerto, which has the most beautiful opening that you'll ever hear in your life. These are such terrific works, but none of them quite hit me the same way. I love them all. I love them all now. Now I know them well. I mean, I took the time to get to know them, and I adore the whole series. I don't know of another composer who wrote 5 piano concertos outside of Beethoven that are this good, this consistently fun to listen to, and lovely and different from each other. But this one in particular just slew me when I heard it. And after that, it was love at first listen, and it has been ever since. If you don't know this work, you may want to give it some serious consideration. It's so easy because it's called the Egyptian, and and all that stuff, and because it may not be politically correct in some circles today, as if we care. To just sort of disregard it as a piece of faux Orientalist fluff. But it isn't. It isn't. I mean, Saint-Saëns spent a lot of his time in Algeria and Egypt. He liked it there. He had a great time. It's an expression of his love, his affection for an exotic part of the world, and his desire to memorialize that wonderful, wonderful feeling and memories that he had in music. And he does it so, so very well. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me, and take care.